Assalamu alaikum everybody. In this video we're going to start with chapter 2, inputs and output devices in the ICT IGCSE book. We're going to mention a lot of input devices, and of course we're going to define them first, and then for every input device we're going to come up with advantages and disadvantages, and we're going to do the same with output devices, which we will study right after input devices. We are going to mention some of the output devices, very popular or the common output devices, and then we're going to mention for each and every output device we're going to mention advantages and disadvantages. So let's get started. First, let's come up with a definition or understand what is input devices. Input devices are used to enter data into a computer. That's as simple as you can define it. Input devices are used to enter data into a computer. The processor processes the data given by the input devices. There are two different categories for input devices, and they are manual input devices and direct data entry. Let's focus on manual input devices, which is going to be the topic on this video. I'm going to repeat the definition of input devices. Those are the devices that we use to enter data into a computer. Now, the first input device that we're going to learn is keyboards and keypads. Keyboards are input devices used to enter fixed values, often characters and numbers, into the computer system. Keyboards are input devices used to enter fixed values because you only have limited number of buttons on your keyboard. You can't come up with a new button to enter, right? So you have fixed values, often either characters or numbers or both, right, into a computer system. There are many different types of keyboards. In this section we're going to learn about QWERTY keyboards and numeric keyboards. So if you notice over here, QWERTY, QWERTY, that is why we call this type of keyboard QWERTY. QWERTY keyboard is the most common type of keyboard and is used to type letters, numbers, and punctuation into a keyboard. So this could be your definition for the QWERTY keyboard. QWERTY keyboard is the most common type of keyboards and is used to type letters, numbers, and punctuations into a computer. Okay, so far we've defined input devices and we've defined keyboards. Now let's move to numerical keyboards. Okay, most keyboards have a section on the right with a group of keys representing the digits from 0 to 1 arranged in a rectangular. So they are talking about this section over here, okay, where you have all the numbers to the right hand side. So most keyboards have a section on the right with a group of keys representing the digits from 0 to 1 arranged in a rectangular. This is a numeric keyboard. Numeric keyboards are also provided on their own for people to input their PIN numbers when they pay for something by a card, to input phone numbers on the telephone keypad, or for an entry code. Like if you're trying to dial a phone, or if you're trying to buy if you want to withdraw money from the ATM machine, the keyboard that you're going to be getting is a numeric keyboard. Numeric keyboard or numeric keypads. Numeric keypads are small, easy to use, and are not dependent on language. So they have numbers, they could be in whatever language. They're very obvious, right? Okay, so let's move on to advantages and disadvantages. So the advantages of keyboards are they are so common that everyone is familiar with them. Everybody knows how to use a keyboard. They are easy to use, and people quickly become familiar with their layout, where all the letters and numbers are. Now the disadvantages of keyboards are it is very easy to make an error when entering data. It's very easy to make an error when entering data. Unless users learn how to touch type, it can be very time consuming to enter the data. They can cause strain injuries if used for long periods. Cannot be used for creating diagrams and artworks. This is one thing that we can mention if we have this, if they asked on an assessment. You cannot create diagrams and artworks because you only have limited characters, letters and numbers, right? Now the last disadvantage of keyboards is that different keyboards are required for different countries. Like you need an Arabic keyboard to type Arabic, you need Chinese keyboard to type Chinese, as their language may use different characters, right? Okay, so we're done with keyboards. Moving on to pointing devices. The IGCSE people are making things more in details. So we have pointing devices. We have a mice. We have an optical mouse. We have a wireless mouse, and then we have touch pads like the ones that we have on the laptops, and then we have tracker balls. Okay, so let's get into this. A mice. A mouse is a pointing device that is used with a computer with a graphical user interface. It has to be GUI. By moving the mouse on a flat surface, you can move the pointer on the screen. Items can be moved or selected by clicking one of the mouse buttons. Okay, so that can be the definition of a mouse. Of course, we have an optical mouse, one that uses light to detect the movement of the mouse itself. It uses an optical sensor to detect changes in the reflected light. If you're moving it on the table, it will be detecting that using light. Okay. A wireless mouse communicates with the computer using Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. The most common one is the Bluetooth mouse. Wireless. They are more convenient and versatile as they are not connected to a computer by a cable. So you can have your computer on a table, but you'll be sitting on a different desk or a chair far away, but you can still use the mouse. Yeah. Now let's have another definition for the mouse. A handheld device that is used with a computer to move the pointer on the screen. I think this definition is more clear than the one that we learned earlier. This one. Okay. Now optical mouse. Emits light and uses an optical sensor to detect changes in the reflected light to move the pointer on a computer screen. Wireless mouse. A mouse that is not connected to a computer by a cable but communicates with it using radio waves. Okay, now let's get to advantages and disadvantages of the mouse. They provide a fast method of input. They are really fast. They are intuitive to use because they simply involve pointing at things. They're intuitive because they simply involve pointing at things. Actually, right now, while giving this lesson, I'm only using the mouse. And sometimes I use the keyboard. Now, the disadvantages of the mouse is mice can be easily damaged or vandalized. They can easily get broken. And some people, particularly if they have physical disabilities, they find a mouse very difficult to use. Overuse of a mouse can lead to repetitive strain injuries. A mice needs a flat surface to be moved around on. Okay, now moving on to touchpads. A mouse is sometimes not a suitable way to control the pointer. A laptop computer is designed for use in places other than a fixed surface. So while using a laptop, you can't be carrying a laptop along with a mouse. You have a touchpad, right? A touchpad. Okay. This means that there is often no surface for the mouse. A laptop is designed to have all the necessary peripherals, that means devices, in one case, in one unit. Okay, and a mouse would have to be carried separately. That is why laptops come with a variation on a mouse for a pointing devices. It's called touchpad, and it's a flat area next to the keyboard. This is what they mean. Instead of having a mouse over there or over here, you can just use the touchpad, which comes with the laptop. Okay, tracker balls. They are like the original mechanical mice turned upside down so that the mouse remains stationary and the user moves the ball, which is obviously much larger in a tracker ball. Tracker ball have the following advantages. Before we move on to advantages and disadvantages, I want to show you a picture of a tracker ball. It's just like this one. So you use it up to move the mouse up, you move it down to move the mouse down. Sometimes it's found in the middle of the keyboard of the laptop itself. I don't think they have a picture of that, but sometimes you'll find it in the keyboard in the middle of all the buttons over there. Yeah, so that is a tracker ball. Now, advantages of a tracker ball is that a tracker ball is stationary and does not need a surface. That's an advantage, right? To be moved around on. You don't need a surface or a table to put it on. It can be built into a computer, such as in an information system in a museum. It can also be used by disabled people who may not have the freedom of movement necessary to use other pointing devices. A disadvantage is that tracker balls can be difficult to use for some applications which need fine control. Okay, moving on from tracker balls to remote control. A remote control is, let me zoom in. A remote control is a small handheld device that can be used to operate equipment such as a TV or a stereo. That is a sufficient enough device. A remote control is a small handheld device that can be used to operate equipment such as TV or stereo. Now, what could be an advantage of or disadvantage of the remote control? The main advantage is convenience. For example, you do not need to stand up to change the TV channel. A disadvantage is that the signal can interfere with other equipments and can be blocked by objects. So it can interfere with other equipments if you have like two TVs at the same area, or a TV and a speaker, and they both use remotes. And it can be blocked by objects between the remote control and the equipment it controls. If somebody stood in front of you while you're trying to change the channels, the signal is not gonna reach to the TV. Now that's it about remote controls. Now we're gonna learn about joysticks. Okay, first I'd like you to see what a joystick is. A joystick is something like this that we can use to control devices. This is a wheel, but a joystick is like, it does exactly the same function. A joystick can carry out the same task as a mouse, as well as other functions such as controlling the movement of a motorized wheelchair. So mostly it's used to for disabled people. They have a joystick over here so that they can control the movement of their wheelchair. Now let's study a little bit about the advantages. Because their advantages, joystick are used in applications such as, okay, these are the applications. You can use them for playing games because they give the user the impression of being in control, and there's a direct and immediate result of the player's actions that adds to the enjoyment of the game. To control aircraft because they are easy to use in a very complex environment. To control wheelchairs that have motors because they allow the user to give many different commands with very little physical movement. Commands as if like move up, move forward, left, right, back, and so on. Those are the application and the advantages. The disadvantages of using a joystick is, as a pointing device, it is more difficult to control the fine movement of the pointer on the screen than with a mouse. I mean, it's better to use a mouse controlling a pointer on a computer than using a joystick. Okay, moving on to a driving wheel. A driving wheel is designed for use in racing video games, especially racing video games and driving and racing simulators. They are often packaged with pedals for acceleration and also brakes. Okay, so this is how it look like. It's actually something that you go and buy. It's a bit expensive for a gamer, for a regular gamer, but someone who is addicted or very like a game pro kind of a person. See, this one is a PlayStation, works with PlayStation. This is the driving wheel, and this is the pedals that they mentioned. Now the advantages of the driving wheels is that it allows users to control movement far more accurate than a mouse or a joystick. There's one thing here that I want you to notice is that in IGCSE ICT they always like to compare devices with each other. Over here, this is a comparison between the driving wheel and a mouse, where in playing games he's saying that it allows the user to control movement far more accurately than a mouse or a joystick. Yeah. Force feedback can also be added to provide simulated road resistance, and they also have like vibration technique. The disadvantages of driving wheels. Now I think he's going to compare it with other things. It can only be used for one purpose, which is games and driving and racing, it would be very difficult, for example, to write a document using a driving wheel as an input device. Adding mechanical elements such as force, feedback, and gear levers increases malfunctioning costs. So again, as I said earlier, it's a bit costly for a regular user. Moving on from driving wheels to touch screens, which is something that we use every day. A touchscreen can be found on personal computers, laptops, tablets, smartphones. It is a display screen that is both input and output device. So a touchscreen is considered both input and output device. One more time, touchscreen can be found on personal computers, laptops, tablets, smartphones. It is a display screen that is both input and output device. A touchscreen can determine where on the screen that user has touched and sends that information to the process. We'll learn more about touchscreens. You may have noticed that sometimes you can use a touchscreen with your gloves on while you're wearing gloves, and sometimes you cannot. That is because there are two types of touchscreens. The touchscreens that we have on our phones, we cannot use them with gloves because we're going to find out which type it is. First, we have resistive touchscreen, which means that it is sensitive to pressure. It is sensitive to pressure. Resistive touchscreen is sensitive to pressure from your finger or other object pressed onto the screen. So whatever pressure that you cause on the screen, it's going to detect that. The point of contact is determined because the two metallic layers touch at that certain point, resulting in a change in the voltage. So it has two metallic layers. When you press on that, where you have pressed, those two layers are going to detect the movement at the certain point, resulting in the change in voltage. Now the next touch screen type is capacitive, which means that the screen is sensitive to static electricity. So we do have static electricity in our bodies. That's why our phone screen can only interact with our body, our fingers, our hands, and so on. On an exposed finger, this is detected by sensors placed at the four corners of the screen, allowing it to detect the touch points. So we have sensors at the corners on our phones detecting the touch screen. Now we have resistive touchscreen and capacitive touchscreen. Okay, resistive touchscreen, it's sensitive to pressure, and capacitive screen is sensitive to static electricity. Okay, moving on to advantages and disadvantages. Touchscreens are common in information systems in places like train stations or self-service checkouts at the supermarkets. Like if you notice that nowadays all McDonald's have a touchscreen when trying to order your food. Advantages of touchscreens: they are intuitive and easy to use. We want to make that as simple as that. They are intuitive and easy to use. Space saving, as input and output devices are the same. Well, you have a screen and you have an input device, right? Space saving as input and output device. Cost effective for shops and restaurants, as fewer staff are needed if customers can order and serve themselves. So you don't need a cashier if you have a system with a touchscreen for customers to order food themselves. And those are the three advantages that we know about, that we learn about touchscreens. Now moving on to disadvantages. It's not suitable for inputting large amounts of data. If you're typing a whole document, for example, not very accurate for selecting very small areas. Now, two more disadvantages is that disabled people can find them difficult to use if they cannot lift their arms or are sitting in a wheelchair and the machines are placed too high. Hygiene problems with lots of people touching the screen. Moving on to scanners. Scanners are used to convert text, diagrams, and images into digital data so that they can be manipulated by a computer. let's stop at that. Okay, so you take a hard copy or a paper, and then you scan it to convert it into a digital form or digital data. It could be text, diagrams, images. Now here is a picture of a scanner. That's the regular scanner that we can buy anywhere, and you basically open it that way, and then you place your paper this way, and then you close it, then you press scan so that the picture would show on your computer. Now let's learn a little bit about advantages of the scanner or advantages of scanning. Flatbed scanners are very accurate and can produce reasonably high quality images. Like if you have old images of your family, you can scan them and put them on your computer. Hard copy material can be changed into a form that can be edited or stored on the computer system. The same photos that you scan to your computer, you can easily back them up on your cloud or on your Google Drive or the iCloud, so that you know that if you lose your hard copy, you have the soft copy on your account. Any material that is digested by a scanner or scanned by a scanner can then be included on electronic documents, for example, reports, photos, posters, and presentations. Like if you want to send them on an email or something. Scanned images can be imported into a graphics applications and enhanced, improved, or changed as needed. You can do whatever you want with them. You can crop them, you can add filters to them. Moving on to disadvantages. While scanners make it possible to put images of hard copy photographs and printed illustrations into a computer, there may be a reduction in the quality of the image, and scanned diagrams can sometimes appear distorted. So the quality of the image might get lost a little bit and they might appear distorted. That's the first disadvantage. The last one is scanned images can take up a lot of space in storage, and that is actually true. Sometimes you can scan one image, and then when you check the size of that digital image that you scanned, you'll find it as 40 megabytes, 50 megabytes, which takes up a lot of space in the storage. Okay, so I'll stop here, and in the next video I'm going to start with cameras. So let's just go quickly on everything that we learned in this video. First, we defined the input devices. They are the devices used to enter data into a computer, and then the processor processes the data given by the input devices. The input devices that we learned are keyboards and keypads. We learned that there's a QWERTY keyboard, and then there's a numerical keyboard, and then we moved on to there it is, pointing devices such as mice, and then we have a touchpad, and then a tracker ball. There they are, yeah. And then we moved on to remote controls, joysticks, the driving wheel, the touch screen, and of course we studied the two types of the touch screen, the resistive and the capacitive. And then we learned, the last thing we learned is the scanners. Alright, so in the next video we're going to continue with the input devices, starting with cameras. I hope this lesson was clear and useful. Till I see you in the next lesson, take good care. Bye.